हरि ओम। ॐ सहना भवतु, सहनौ भुनक्तु, सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै, तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्या सम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंश ऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितः प्रज्ञानघनः प्रत्यगर्थो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। Just a summary of this Upanishad. We'll look into it today. The Upanishad begins by revealing the vision of Vedas, vision of Upanishad, or the goal that is to be achieved by every human being, one who wields a human body. What is the goal of the life that is being revealed? Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchat jagatyam jagat tena taktena bhunjithaha magradaha kasya svidhanam. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Idam sarvam, whatever is, should be pervaded by, should be seen as Ishavasyam. Isha means is the Ishvara. Now, the word Isha has 2-3 meanings. The master, the ruler, the controller, that's Isha. Palanakarta, Shashanakarta is Isha. Both ways we can look at it. As various orders, he is a Palankarta, sustains the creation. As Karma Phaladata, he is a Shashaka. He rules by giving the Karma Phala to a given person at a time when there is when the karma matures. That's a phalam. Here, none of these meanings are intended. There is another meaning. What's the meaning? That which is the very substratum of the vastu. Whatever is because of Ishvara. Any ornament is because of gold. if all the ornaments are golden ornaments. Any furniture is because of wood if they are all made up of wood with their wooden furniture. What we call it as satta spurti pradata, that which gives the very existence, and that because of which the thing is what it is. Both. Spurti means what it is. Like Kena Upanishad Vakya, the self is told as chakshushaha chakshuhu, vacho havacham, manaso manaha. It is the mind of the mind, speech of the speech, eye of the eye. Not that there is a different eye behind it. Not that there is a different ear, another ear behind this ear. Ear is ear. You cannot define it in English. Shruyate anena iti shrotram, by which you can hear. That is called ears. Chakshuhu, eyes, by which you can see. That means ear is called ear as long as it hears. When it doesn't hear, it is not ear. In a typical Gujarati, then typical traditional home, mom will shout, so baby or daughter or son, and doesn't reply. Then she will say, come to the drawing room and shout, Kaan chhe ke kana chhe? Do you have ears or the holes only? If you have ears, you should be hearing it. So the thing, what it is meant for, spurti, that is because of consciousness. The capacity to hear is because of consciousness. The very existence of a thing that is also because of consciousness. Therefore, it is called Ishaha, the one sustainer, one who as though provides, as though is the existence behind the existence of a thing, and it gives the necessary capacity to a vastu to be what it is meant for. So Isha is in the sense that there is a ruler as a self. And I had given an example like myself seeing in a mirror. The reflection is because I is. The reflection moves because I move. Satta spurti pradata rupena Ishvaraha. That Ishavasya, that means Ishvara is not something sitting up above in the sky. It is the very self of all of us. Because of self, what it is. And it is that vastu because of which the thing is what it is. Tena tyaktena bunjithaha magridah kasyasit vanam. No? Tyaktena bunjithaha. You have to protect this vision by tyaga. This is not upasana mantra. This is a statement of fact. This is not something to be meditated upon. This is factual statement. And to discover that, or whatever sort of a glimpse, I had some vision, if the teacher is competent enough to communicate, if teacher can arrest the attention of the student momentarily, and he or she has some shraddha, you may get some glimpse sort of vision to hold that vision for a minute. What needs to be done? Tyaktena bhunjidha. Bhunjaha is not eating, okay? Bhunjanam means rakshanam. May you protect this vision by tyaga, by renunciation. What is to be renounced? Extrovertedness. What is extrovertedness? Desire to seek security and happiness from the world outside. And the desire is born out of ragadveshas, our own subjective values. So, Yaktena Bunjitaha, by giving up the desires, by giving up the likes and dislikes. These likes and dislikes are not something that you can give up by decision. Desires are not something that you give up by decision because they are not born out of decision. You don't desire to desire. You don't will a will. And you don't decide to have a ragadvesha one day, one fine morning. No. They are born out of ignorance. They are born out of lack of discrimination. They are born out of aviveka. So renouncing them means being a viveki all the time. Renouncing them means discovering, being objective. Ragadveshas, he colors your vision. A person, when he views the world through lenses of ragadvesha, there is a subjective perception. Yaktena bhunjitaha means being an objective person. Ma gradaha kasya sviddhanam. Ma gradhanam kasya sviddhanam. Don't seek wealth. Whom does it belong? No more seek security. You are secure. Atma is secure. Having said this, the Acharya talks about second mantra. The first three mantras talks of three types of person. One who is ready for knowledge, or one who is knowledgeable. A wise person is described, or a jignasu, one who wants to own up the wisdom, he is being addressed in the first mantra, especially the second half of the first mantra. The second mantra is to convert a dharmikaha into mumukshu and then jignasu. The person who has been living a life of dharma, or you can say religious life. One may have religious life, but doesn't mean the person is spiritual. Dharmika bhakti person need not be adhyatmika. Adhyatmika is a one who pursues adhyatma, one who is wanting to know the self, wants to know the reality of oneself, Ishvara and Jagat. Means one who is committed to study Shastras. Dharmikaha is committed to one's own duties. That person is addressed in the second mantra. Kurvan neveha karmani jijivishet shatagum samaha. Evam tvai nanyathe tosti na karma lipyate nare. Understand? The purpose of all our cultural forms, the purpose of all our cultural values, social values, religious values, the purpose of all prayers is only one. In a way, two, but to direct purpose is one, to gain maturity. All this fructifies in making the person a matured person. And as long as one doesn't become matured, this needs to be done, pursued further. You need more of these karmas, dharma, values, forms, rituals, everything. Now the question comes, what is maturity? Matured is a one who has a vairagya. Vairagya is maturity. What is Viragya? Vairagya. Vairagya doesn't mean just giving up the things. Vairagya means being objective to the situation, objective to myself, objective to people. In other words, living a factual life. In other words, maturity is to learn to accept the facts. Maturity is no resistance to certain facts. Absence of vairagya is resistance. Absence of vairagya is subjectivity. Absence of vairagya is, you can say, blowing the things out of proportion. Small thing become big, and big thing becomes insignificant or redundant. Moksha is Purnatvam. It's a very big thing. But for the person who doesn't have Vairagya, moksha is insignificant. It's redundant. It's of no use. He or she thinks this something is to be not pursued now, at least not now. That's a thinking. What does it mean by factual? Non-acceptance of the certain facts, an insistence on doing the things in my way, having the things in my way. We all want our own world to live happily. We cannot live happily in Ishvara's world. Ishvara's world is different world. I cannot live happily. I am always or constantly restructuring the world outside. For what? To feel happy, to be happy, to feel at home, to feel comfort. Restructuring. That is subjectivity. And being objective is, this is how it is, full stop. I accept it and I go ahead with it. When that mind is objective, when the mind is free from the holds of likes and dislikes, then there is a possibility of viveka, possibility of this question, hey, what am I seeking? And what have I got so far? What do I want? And what am I pursuing? And that turns into vairagya. And then moksha, etc. follows when one has a grace. But understand, following dharma, following ethics, following values, following cultural forms, religious values like Matrudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava, etc., or having a familial value. This is a typical Hindu culture. You want a family, you sacrifice for family. People have a question, what do I get out of this? When I do this, I am a loser. I don't get anything. And what's the purpose of it? And if I compromise, I get something more. No. The purpose of all this is to make you a matured person. To grow as a mature person. Accept the things, certain things as it is. Accept people as it is. Accept your life situations as it is. And if you want to change it. Work for a change, but out of acceptance, not out of resistance. Our life is full of resistance. Always resist. Often. But then when you become accepting and then working for a change is altogether different approach to the life. So, this second mantra is meant for this person who is growing to be mature. Second mantra is the process of self-maturation. Which maturation? Not physical, psychological maturation. How do I mature psychologically? Kurvanneveha karmani jijivishet shatagum samaha. May we aspire for a long life. But then how? Kurvan eva karmani. By performing the duties, performing dharma, surrendering my free will to my kartavya, and with certain attitude is an offering to Ishvara. In other words, second mantra is for karma yogi. The first mantra is for sadhaka, seeker, or a wise person, for nididhyasana. Second mantra is for karma. And emphasizing the need for this, that if you can't own up the vision, if you don't get opportunity to get the vision or cannot own up the vision, at least be a karma yogi. Commit yourself to duty, dharma. Commit yourself to values. Commit yourself to certain forms. To emphasize that, Shruti does ninda, censure of those who do not commit that, who live their life dictated by their likes and dislikes, who conduct themselves to be led by their own fancies, which are often changing, fast changing in that way. Those people are censored by saying, Asurya namate lokaha andhena tamasa vrataha tamste pratyabhigachanti yeke chatmahano janaha. These are all atmahanaha. They are atmaghati. They have killed themselves. That doesn't mean Shruti is talking of suicide. Killing themselves meaning what? You don't use the body. You don't utilize the janma for which it is meant to be. Janma, human birth, is meant for moksha. This is designed for moksha. And when it is not employed in the pursuit of moksha, it is as good as killing yourself. When this janma, as I said, it is meant for moksha. Why? The means for moksha, namely the knowledge and the capacity to know, is gifted to us. That is buddhi. The means of knowledge is also provided by our rishis on this great Bharat Bhumi. There is the Vedas and Upanishad. They held the tradition and passed on this wisdom to every generation. So the means for knowledge is available and capacity to know is gifted to us by the Lord, by buddhi. In terms of buddhi, that is the unique gift that human birth has. Traditionally saying, of those 84 lakhs births, varieties of births, only human birth is a birth where you have buddhi. And buddhi is not meant to enhance my arthakama. Buddhi is not meant to have more pleasures and more security. Because for varieties of pleasures and varieties of securities, other animal or insect or bird's bodies are there. And in fact, they can have better sensual pleasures because their sense organs are more powerful than us in certain areas. Certain animals, I often say this, or pani puri, bhel puri lovers, who eat on every street corners. They eat nothing but filth. The fellows don't wash the plate. They just swim the place in the pool of bucket and bring it out. Typical Bombaya pani puri walas. And they eat. It is nothing but a plate of bacteria. And they are eating. But then the pig has a better body to eat filth. You don't need a human body to eat all this. So likewise, they have better sense of it. Point is that human being has unique capacity called buddhi, and it is meant for gnana, moksha. When it is not employed for moksha, it is as good as killing oneself. And when they don't use buddhi, that will, see, the will is also buddhi, and capacity to know also is buddhi. The first employ the will to commit to dharma. I don't go by my fancies. I don't go by my likes and dislikes. I don't go by what I feel like doing and what I don't feel like doing. I go by what I have to do, what I have not to do. It's a will, isn't it, to begin with. And then by doing that, you develop Vivek Vairagya. And then the buddhi is employed, the capacity to know. The subtle buddhi is employed in terms of knowing the self. So where do they go? Asurya namate loka. They will go to those lokas where sense pleasures are available. Remind you, our Shruti is very clear. Even the pursuit of sense organs is to be done, is to be undertaken in the boundaries of dharma. Means the means also should be ethical. You have a priority. Your goal or your value is arthakama, fine. But then I pursue the legitimate arthakama through legitimate means. Shastra says, Tisram yonim yuhu. It doesn't talk about those fellows who kept on compromising the legitimacy of the end as well as means. In our life, means should be more important than the end. End should be legitimate, and the means to achieve should be more important. You see, just think of this from one standpoint of view, just a perspective. There is no difference between devatas and danavas, demons and gods, as that translates. Devatas and danavas are same. Both are pursuing heaven. What's the difference? Devata also want heaven. They also want heaven. They are fighting. That's all the story is, like a typical Hindi movie. Hero, heroine, love, villain, fighting, and villain. Over. Picture hero, heroine, love, villain, love, villain, then fighting, and then villain. The movie is over. Devatas are always fighting for heaven with asuras, and they want. It is like Democrats and Republicans, Which now the question is, who is Devata of the two? That's a big question here. But then we always see that Bhagavan sides Devatas. A typical story of Samudra Manthanam, churning the ocean. Bhagavan sided Devatas. Or another example, there is no difference between Duryodhana and Arjuna. Both wanted Hastinapur kingdom. Both wanted the power. Both wanted the pleasure that comes with the power. Both wanted the name and fame. But Krishna sided Arjuna. Lord Bhagavan supported Arjuna. Why? End is legitimate. As a Kshatriya, you have right to have, you have freedom to have this goal. But then means was more important than the end for Arjuna. The whole message of the first chapter is not that I do not want any kingdom. Na kangshe vijayam Krishna nacha rajyam sukhani cha. He says that now I don't want kingdom. Now I don't want bhogas. Rajyam na sukhani. I don't want vijayam, the name and fame. Now. Why? Because means are illegitimate. Means are so important that if the means are illegitimate, I don't want the end. They are more important than the end. Whereas Duryodhana is whether who lives or who dies, I don't care. I want my kingdom. I want to continue to be the king. That was his perception. Arjuna says, I don't want for myself. Yesham arthe kangshitam no rajyam bhoga sukhani cha. Sadhana shuddhi is equally important, or I would say more important than sadhya shuddhi. But people who do not bother for sadhana shuddhi or sadhya shuddhi, the Veda or Shruti doesn't waste a single word to talk about them. When it is said, Asurya namate lokaha, these are the people who are pursuing artha kamas only, into bracket, always through legitimate means. Their goal is not dharma, their goal is not moksha, but only artha kama. So they go to worlds of asuras. The asura word you cannot translate as devil. This devil and God only has created problems. the type of thinking is devil. The pattern of thinking is devil. There is no devil as such. And you cannot say the person is devil. Thinking is devil. And you have to correct that thinking. Simple as that. That improper thinking and therefore improper attitudes, improper values needs to be corrected. No. So Krishna, I have tweeted this just yesterday or today, I don't know. Krishna keeps on killing demons. So this devilish thinking is the demon we want to be killed by Krishna. We seek his improper thinking. And I'm sure most of you who have been studying Shastras from me, at least for the last 2-3 years, must have discovered in themselves your pattern of thinking has changed. Your way of looking at the things have changed. As an individual, you are more relaxed and composed. There is no much hype in the life. What happened? This will happen. Like a typical American. When they say this word, cool, they will not say cool even. Cool. The coo is also told coo very softly. You become that. Your way of thinking changes. And after sometimes you will wonder, did I always thought like this? How was I? How foolish was I? That more you discover that, more you are growing. How improper way of thinking I had. That is it. So, there is no devil. Devilish thinking. Improper. Devilish thinking means not that devil. There is nothing wrong in pursuing karma. They blame that you should not have pleasure. Then why did you create? And why did you leave them alone? You said this. You should not have these and don't do this. No. Bhagavan says in Gita, Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. I am kama. Then dharmamaya kama. So, asura, the fields of devils, means they go to those fields of experience. Asura word is asusu ramante iti asuraha. Those who revel in sensual pleasure, always thinking of sensual. Reveling means what? I know quite a few people in the past. Whenever they meet, they keep talking about what did you cook and what did I cook? How should you cook this item and how will it taste this way? And I attended this cookery talk and I attended this cookery classes and we made this way and you made this way. Or some people talking of all the time shopping. I bought this and this has been this much sale available and all. And the modern version of cookery and shopping is talking about politics, talking about stocks, talking about company, my colleague and my boss and this. It's all devilish thinking. Why waste time? You have to think of them because you are paid for. Having come home, enjoy the family. But when the same company guys get together, they start talking about company politics. What did the boss do? And the typical company gossip, company discussion. This is all improper. There is Asurya Loka. Understand what is Asurya Loka? People are so fond of discussing politics. Forget about discussing, they are advising. Sitting here, they will say, Modi should not have done this. You should do this to economy, to boost the economy. What Biden should do, he talks in his drawing room. You know, I had seen those guys. And in my Purvashram, I was living nearby Ahmedabad. There is one called Law Garden. Now it is Law Garden, but there is a Law Ellis Beach, very good area. So they used to, generally some retired IAS officers and secretaries lived there. And they, in those days, morning walk, they used to come. In those days, society was not so conscious about jogging and figure and the calorie and all that. So only retired guys would be there and some enthusiast, bodybuilder enthusiast and sports will be there. Those guys will walk and then sit and chat. And they would be chatting those days. What Henry Kissinger should have done, what President Bush should do, what Indira doesn't know, and she should do this way and that way. And I knew quite a few of them. I mean, three, four of those senior IAS. And in my mind, I used to think, I didn't tell them because I have no the kevaining. So I used to think, તારી ઘરે રીંગણા બનાવવા કે બટાકા તારી ઘરવાળી પૂછતી નથી તો ઇન્દિરાની ક્યાં વાત કરે કિસિંજરની ક્યાં વાત કરે at your home what you should cook today, what should be the menu, your wife doesn't bother or doesn't consult you. Even if you don't like, you have to eat whatever she gives. And then sitting here in a garden bench, you are advising the Kissinger, the international diplomat of those days, the fellow how he should frame his foreign policies. And you are advising President Bush how he should run America, how Indira Gandhi should do that. You better get a ticket for even simple municipal ward. Then talk. This is Asurya. Asurya Loka. Understand? There is a pleasure. See, sense pleasure doesn't mean eating only, drinking only, seeing only. Mind is also sense organ. Antakaranam. And something you like and you relish, like eating ice cream or cold drink, and then you just sip. Or some smokers, when they smoke, you feel they are in a Brahmananda. they revel in that. And the most common or universal psychological thing that people revel, they enjoy, is sensory, ninda, bad mouthing about the person who is absent. So, to refrain from is a Devi Sampati. These all asura. They understand the meaning. Devil doesn't work here. Surya Namate Loka, English will say, those worlds of asuras into bracket devils, they will go. What devil? Means pleasure, seeking pleasure all the time. They will go to those lokas into bracket. They means who pursued this through legitimate means, through dharma. And they are called Atmahano Janaha. They are the self-killers. Now, in the next 5 mantras, from mantra number 4 to 8, Shrutri describes the nature of the self. And it talks of also the methodology of teaching. The teaching is full of paradoxes. But then that is because you cannot tell this is like this, because the self is not the direct meaning of any word. Any word has a limited meaning and it creates a new complex, new concept. To negate that, the new word is used. So, these 5 mantras from mantra number 4, Anejadekam Manaso Javiya. Unaged. Unaged means it doesn't move, motionless. Aja means component. Component. Anejat, it doesn't have any kind of movement, any kind of motion. Ekam, why it doesn't have any movement? Because it is one, means non-dual one. To move, this has to have some space. There is no space for it to move. The space is motionless because it is everywhere. Atma being everywhere, it is motionless. At the same time, manaso javiyaha, it moves faster than the mind. Meaning thereby, whatever movement is there at the level of upadhi is caused by the self, it gives them capacity to move. Therefore, indirectly, you can say caused by the self. Therefore, it is said the self moves faster than even the mind. Exactly like sun doesn't have any movement, doesn't have any kriya, does not do any activity. But then you can say sun is colder. It doesn't have cold with it. Absence of sunrise only is cold, partly. But at the same time, you can say it is colder than the North Pole or the snow or ice. How can I say that? Refrigeration is possible because of energy. And the energy is electricity is caused because of solar power. So you can say it is colder than refrigerator. The meaning is all upadhi dharmas are there because of it, and therefore being a nirdharmaka, devoid of any qualities. At the same time, it is beyond all qualities. It is much more than all the qualities. So, anejadekam manaso javiyaha. It moves faster than mind. Remaining stationary, it runs all around and runs all runners out, runs out all runners, runs out, it runs out. It moves faster than all the thing that is being there. It moves faster than the wind also. Because the movement that the wind has is because of it. And therefore, manaso javiyaha nainad deva apnuvat tishtat urvam harshata. Devatas could not know it. Okay? What does it mean by Devatas could not know it? Nainam deva apnuvat. Devatas means sense organs. They cannot know it because it is devoid of any quality, guna. Each sense organ can comprehend a particular guna. Eyes can comprehend the rupa and ranga, the form and the color. Ears can comprehend the shabda. Nose comprehends the gandha, etc. Since it is nirdharmakaha, devoid of all dharmas, its sense organ cannot comprehend. Meaning thereby, it is not the object of senses, it is the very subject of all the sense organs, because of which the sense organ is what it is. As I said in the beginning, the ear is ear only when it hears. The hearing capacity is borrowed as though from consciousness. Like the solar tubes, their capacity to heat the water is borrowed from the sun. Only tube doesn't heat the water. It is ultimately as though borrowed from the sun. Without sun, none of them can heat. Solar geyser, tubes, solar panels, the capacity to create electricity. They say when they manufacture panel, they say they are manufacturing solar panels. They always say solar panel. They don't say electricity panels. Because panels don't generate electricity. Only when it comes in contact with the sun, it gains its capacity to generate power is as though enlivened and it starts generating the power. So the self is one because of which whatever is and what it is because of it. Anejadekam manaso javiyaha nainad deva apnuvan purvamarshat tadhavato anyan atyeti tashtat tasmin napo mahatarishva dadha. The second mantra it says tadejati tannaijati. It moves and it doesn't move. Taddure tadu antikecha. It is away and it is the most closest thing also. Tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasya bahyata. It is within everything and it is without everything. Because it is within everything, it is without everything because everything is within it. It is within everything, it is without everything as well. Like all the pots, there are so many pots. The space is in every pot, and the space is outside the pot also. Inside the pot is space, outside the pot is also space, because the pot itself is in the space. And they says there is no pot, just a form of the clay. And from the standpoint of the form, you say inside and outside. Conveying this point, Shruti says, Tadejati tannaijati taddure tadu antikecha. It is the closest as well as it is the farthest. Tadantarasya sarvasya. It is within everything. Tadu sarvasya bahyata. It is outside everything. It is beyond everything. Meaning thereby, what was said in the first mantra, the so-called everything is just a name and form. Pot is the name and form of the clay. And from that point of view, you say inside the pot is space, outside the pot is also space. So, consciousness is everywhere. And the so-called inside outside is only name and the form. Different forms of Panchabhutas and different names given to these forms. Therefore, it is said, Tadejati, Tannaijati, Taddure Taduantike cha, Tadantarasya Sarvasya, Tadu Sarvasyasya Bahyataha. It is outside everything. And having this of these five mantras, the first two mantras describes the nature or explains the swarupa of the self. Next three mantra also talks of the swarupa, but it also talks of the phalam, what you get by knowledge. What is the result of the knowledge? Indirectly emphasizing the need for knowledge. Why? The phalam of the knowledge is something which every human being wants. It's a bottom line want. That you want to have that, want to get rid of shoka, want to get rid of moha, want to get rid of pain. And that he says, Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanneva nupashyati sarveshu bhuteshu chatmanam natato vichikitsati vijugupsate yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhut vijanatah tatra ko moha kashokaha ekatvam anupashyati. One who sees oneness, one truth is manifesting many. There is no moha, no shoka. And he concludes again by this mantra, Kavir Manishi Paribhus Swayambhuhu Yatha Tatyato Arthan Vedadat Shashwati Vyasama. As Ishvara, the Brahman is revealed as Ishvara, the Karma Phaldata as well. So Maya Shabalam Brahma is also being revealed, Sagunatvam. Because when he says in this mantra, Yatha Tathyato Arthan Vedadat Shashwati Samabhya. So, Karma Phaldata. And in next mantras, there is a discussion about Vidya and Avidya. In next three mantras, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, there is a discussion about Sambhuti and Asambhuti Upasanas. In the earlier three mantras, Vidya means not the knowledge but Upasana. And Avidya means not ignorance but karma. So three mantras talk about karma and Upasana. 9, 12, 11, emphasizing the need for both of them in the life. And in the 12, 13, and 14 mantras, Sambhuti and Asambhuti Upasanas. The types of Upasanas are discussed. And the need for both the types of Upasana is said. And the last four mantras, 15, 16, 17, and 18, is a prayer mantra. Prayer is done by the person who is dying, who is literally on the deathbed. Almost Yamraja has knocked the door and is entering in the house to take his prana. How that person, what does he want at that moment? That is being discussed and that we recently saw his prayers, where he says Krato Smara, Kratagum Smara, Agneraya, Supatharaya, etc. With that is so it. And that's a very short Upanishad, fairly loaded in terms of the entire vision of the Shastra is being revealed in this 18 mantras. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Namaha Hari Om. So next week